All right, thanks for joining me for another Creative Prompts Inspired by on Inspired Content. If you're looking for the rating and reviewing of this, that was the previous video. I might figure out how to put a link to it in the front of here or not. I don't know. But this is the part where we break it down and come up with some creative prompts inspired by reading this book. I totally recommend you go read this book of any age. I think it's an amazing look at subtle fantasy. But the ideas that it inspires for this round are, let's see if I can pull up my list to go over. So idea number one for this one is, in this story, and heads up, spoilers coming here. The story includes the myth in the town of a famous female pirate who shipwrecked, and they found the wreck, but they never found the treasure. And so it's barely touched as a motivation for a character at one point that she uses to justify going forward with a certain action. But then it just sort of evaporates as a motivation. But the implication of three young sisters, daughters of a single parent, seeking the treasure of a famous female pirate. I kind of think I want to see that story. I know it's sort of like taking the Goonies and making it the adventures of a young girl and her sisters rather than a group of goofy young boys. But I think if handled in the same sense of the coming of age story of a young girl and her sisters with the treasure hunt, I kind of want to see stories like that. I don't know that there's a lot out there like that. Like an adventure, like a real like fantasy adventure. Uncover the treasure of the lost pirate queen or something like that. All right, number two. Okay, so if we're going to be playing with pirates in a book about Selkies, I want a fantasy story about Selkie pirates. I want a story about Selkie pirates so bad. And I don't know if you're familiar with Selkies or not. I should probably cover some of that. Selkies are seals that can shed their seal skin, and they're oftentimes young maidens underneath. And they hide their seal skins among the rocks and can interact with humans, sort of like fairy can pretend to be humans, like elves with a glamour to resemble humans. But there are a lot of stories of people who seek out the sites where a Selkie has hidden her skin and grab a hold of it to prevent her from returning to becoming a seal. But I want to see a story where we have Selkie pirates. That would be weird. They'd be like, maybe they raised up a ship, a wrecked pirate ship, and their hidden treasures include their pelts. Oh, I don't know how I'd write it, but I want it to exist so bad. All right, number 3. Orphan children who catch Selkies to pose as their mother. So in this sense, it's sort of like a reversal of this story. We have children without any parents, sort of capturing a Selkie to pose as their mother. And I feel like this could be sort of like a Pippi Longstocking kind of character. Like a Selkie is a magical maiden that in its other form is a frolicking seal. I can imagine that kind of character not knowing how to blend into human culture perfectly well. I mean, maybe passing on a casual basis, but the inside of that household has to be like a cat in the hat adventure. That could be a fun story to tell. All right. 4. Finding a magical skin to wrap around a sick loved one to allow them to escape the sickness for a little time in another form. So what I mean by this is if you had somebody who had a disabling sickness of some kind, and their day was pain and struggle, and you thought you found a place where Selkies might leave their skins, and just for a moment, you sneak out, you grab a skin, and you use it to wrap your sick relative in to allow them to not be that sick person for a little while and have the chance to be a free wild animal for a little while. And the question that comes up of like, can they go completely away? Can you let them stay that way forever and lose them that way? Or do you lose them gradually to their illness? Like, that's a hard question of giving somebody freedom from their struggles, but wanting them back. Like, what's the choice on that? What can you do that? All right, and then 5 is okay, this one's going a little weird and maybe a little creepy in the other direction, but finding pieces of a human costume and gradually coming to the realization that your mother isn't human. What does that make you? Oh, that would be so weird. Like the temptation for something like that is to go like an alien in a human disguise. But you could easily go with some of the fantasy, like a Holler folk, or a not quite a changeling, but a parallel to a changeling. You know, it's the parent that's gone this time instead of the infant. And number 6. Now this one's sort of heartbreaking to do to this story, but what if the mother in this case is, you know, the mother, the missing mother? What if the missing mother is locked up in a psych ward because she thinks she's a Selkie? And you uncover that mystery, and then the daughters go and talk, or you know, they solve the mystery, and they get the chance to talk with their mother, but they all still kind of think that Selkies are real and that they are ones. You know, at that point, Stick with the subtle magic of the belief in the young girls that you're left with a question at the end as to whether these young girls are in fact Selkie daughters or they've inherited their mother's mental condition. It's sort of heartbreaking. This started out so positive. I still love this story. And it does have a little bit of an ache right here when you read the story, but yeah, I want to go back to the Pippi Longstocking style Selkie mother and the Selkie pirates. I want those stories, so I may actually play with writing some stories on those. And you're welcome to write any of these if you find anything, or if you think one of these is way off base and you want to do something that makes it make more sense, tell me about what you make. I want to hear about it. All right, thanks for joining me. I will see you for the next episode. Take care and have a good night.